All right, guys, obviously back from the Tennessee game, kind of turned the page. A lot to learn from that experience. The collective effort of our team, offense, defense, and special teams, we made too many mistakes to win the game. That's as simple as you can put it. I think Tennessee's got a good football team. When you play a team of that caliber, those mistakes are too much to overcome. I was proud of the intangibles the team showed. There was no question. We were ready to play. We were ready to compete. We embraced the big stage and the opportunity that came with it. And I thought we showed togetherness. I thought we showed competitive spirit. There was some fight there. There was physicality. There was toughness. And we're in a similar situation relative to the execution. We talk about winning football. What does winning football look like? And I think we got closer in some areas, but we still got a ways to go there. But, we very proud of the response from the players yesterday. I think sometimes in life we get in these situations where maybe we don't like our circumstances, and we can't control that, right? But we can control how we respond to those things. I think each day attitude is a choice. I think effort is a choice. It's always going to be that way the rest of life, and certainly for our football team, that is the approach. I think you got to choose your vision over your circumstances, right? You got to have a big picture of where you want to go, and you got to simplify that and do the things necessary to get there, independent of the circumstance. So, we really challenged the coaching staff and the players. What can you do to help? What can you do to improve? Really taking a good look at your weekly process to get ready. Not only the things that are required, but what about the unrequired work, right? And I think Inky Johnson, when he spoke to our team earlier in training camp, he said hard work is a given. As separator is the unrequired work, right? So as teachers, as coaches, as leaders, and certainly as players on our team, I think everybody excited about how they responded yesterday. And we turned the page. Eastern Washington, it's going to be great to be back in the swamp. We're hopeful that happens, and certainly Eastern Washington, when you dig into the history and the culture of the program, they have a winning tradition. They're very respected across the country for the quality of football that they play. This is a consistent playoff contender and one that's made some great runs. So, myself being a former FCS player, I've got a ton of respect for the program that they run there. So, we've started that preparation and look forward to the challenge. What questions do we have here?
All right, we'll start with Mark.
Yeah, Coach, we didn't get a chance to ask you after the game, but can you just take us through your process for the two-point conversion, trying to go from 17 to 9, you go from 17 to 11 there? Did it have a lot to do with being on the road, facing a Tennessee team you expect to stop?
Yeah, no, I think I'm glad you asked that question, because I think I probably got more questions about that than anything else. But, there's two avenues when you really dig into the numbers about the approach there. First of all, you start talking about playing for a tie, right? When you're on the road, there's a slight advantage for the home team in overtime, right? And then there's certainly a bigger advantage when you're a two-score favorite, right? I think it's about around 63% advantage if you're the home team playing overtime and you're a two-point favorite or a two-score favorite. So that goes into your decision-making. And really all you're trying to do is declare the path earlier in the game, right? So you go for 2 there, and if you get it, you're at 9. Okay, now you're in position to win the game with an extra point, whereas if you don't get it, now you're still 2 scores with an additional opportunity to go for 2, right? So if you kick it, ultimately the numbers are going to tell you to go for 2 to win the game anyway at the end of the game, right? So you're just declaring the path quicker, and then that gives you a chance to adjust your strategy the rest of the game. So, this is pretty common in this era, right? And probably the last 5 years this has happened a number of times. So I think it's all well thought out of, and really going into the game, you're very aware of all the go for two situations and what goes with that.
So the chart is set up long before the game, and it changes week to week.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all relative to the dynamic of the game, how much time's left in the game, the matchups going into the game.
How about venue with that too? Like you said,
Yeah, road.
versus home or something.
Yeah.
If it was home, would you play it differently?
Absolutely. There's no question.
Billy, you had declared the path pretty early in that game, even before the first series and stuff. Just from a defensive standpoint, does that complicate things for your staff when you face a team like that you know really the whole field might be a four-down territory? To what extent does it complicate the preparation?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think your job as a coach is to come up with a strategy to help your team, put your team in position to win, right? So we knew going into it, part of the way you win that game is you got to control possession of the ball, right? You got to keep their offense off the field. The play count on their end on offense can get high in a hurry, and that affects your defense, right? So one of the ways to combat that is to stay on the field on offense. So, and going in based off of history that you're going to have to score. So there's a little bit of a more aggressive approach. And from the first possession on, we took that approach.
From a defensive standpoint, if you're a defensive coordinator facing a team like that, does it cause problems in the preparation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're very much aware of that, especially when you're a favorite and the other team is maybe in that approach in that mind. We've seen teams play us a little bit different as a result of that. So, it's a huge advantage, in my opinion, to approach each game, really with this in mind, if that makes sense. So it's helped us win a lot of games in the past. I think it's going to help us win a lot of games in the future as well.
When you evaluate the third down defense, I mean, it's been 2 games in a row where it's been a pretty high percentage. I think it's 50%. What goes into it, or what do you see in terms of?
Yeah, no, we haven't met our objective couple weeks in a row here on third down. I think when we watch the defensive tape, it's simple. It's one player not doing what he's supposed to do quite often, right? It's a guy busting the coverage. It's a guy not in his pass rush lane. It's a guy misfitting the run. It's a lot of good on the tape, but I think you talk about playing team defense, you got to have 11 players doing what they're supposed to do. So we gave up explosive plays in the game as a result of mental errors. It's that simple. So, I think that we've got to do our part as teachers and as coaches and as leaders to help the players, and then the players have to have the discipline to execute in critical moments.
You made one significant change in the depth chart on defense last week. Do you consider others this week in light of that, or how do you?
Yeah, I mean, we've got the same process of preparing for the game. We're going to evaluate previous performance combined with what we observe Sunday to Saturday, right? And it's always based off of merit. It's based off of production, and then obviously what we're observing every day, right? So, I think that'll be the same approach going forward.
You mentioned the mental errors. Is communication continuing to be a problem with your defense? You gave up 10 pass plays for 279 yards.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that there's two in particular where we just have one player bust the coverage, right? And I think there is a communication element to that, but a lot of it has to do with discipline to execute, the ability to do your job in a critical moment, in a critical time, right? So, I think that the good thing is I see players taking ownership of that. In particular, these individual errors, maybe that are costing us. I don't necessarily see a lot of finger pointing. I see groups stay together, make adjustments, understand what happened, why it happened. But there's no question we can play better across the board here, okay? Offense, defense, and special teams. There's a lot of good on the film. But there's also a lot that we got to clean up.
Billy, I wanted to follow up one more on the two-point conversion. Obviously, it didn't work out, and that you had a lot of people asking you about it. Did you second guess that at all, like on the flight home? Were you kicking yourself, or are you like, well, the numbers said this, it didn't work?
Yeah, no, I've got no issue with the decision. I mean, heck, we tip our own pass or we get the 2-point conversion, right? So, I mean, we got the right play. We made the right decision, I mean, this is one of those paths you go down where, a lot of people don't understand, but, we're going to base our decision-making off of, research and evidence and true facts, and numbers. So it is what it is,
Billy, in the last
There's a few more guys.
Anthony had 112 passing yards. He quadrupled that on Saturday. How do you explain that discrepancy? I mean, is it like a light bulb come off for him last week, and maybe what were some things that you guys did to just kind of get him to click like that?
Well, he probably had his best week of practice. I thought he was really tuned in to the preparation throughout the week. And I think the matchup was different, right? I mean, we played South Florida. We could turn around and hand the ball off pretty consistently. And, maybe he wasn't maybe in the groove, if that makes sense. But we knew going into the park that we were going to give him the ball and let him go play. We'll continue to do that. It's just part of him being a young player. No different than you draft an NFL quarterback, in the first round, and hey, he's your guy. Let's go. I mean, there's been a number of rookie quarterbacks that have been through that same process, if that makes sense. So, I think the big thing for him is I saw him kind of flip the switch as a competitor, and really just get consumed with, hey, look, this is my team. I'm going to take my team. We're going to beat your team. I'm going to do everything I can do to help my teammates and help our team win. And just competing, right, and not really worrying about anything else, what anybody thinks or, how things are going. Just like, what is the next decision that I need to make to help the team win? And I think ultimately that's where I saw a little bit of growth from him. He was enjoying it, right? I mean, he was embracing it, right? He was in his element, which I think ultimately as a player, that's how the game's supposed to be played. That's why it's fun to play, right? And I could say the same thing about coaching. So, I think I'm proud of Anthony and how he, because there's a lot of noise and all that. You can get caught up in that, but he didn't, right? He really showed up and did his job for the team.
And then going back to the defense, where do you feel like the safety position is at? And how do you just want to see that get better from a tackling standpoint and communication and coverage?
No, I think it's, I think that secondary in particular is a position much like our entire team where, we play well at times, but we're a little bit inconsistent at times, right? And I think each position on our team, I know sometimes the magnifying lens gets put on certain plays or certain, situations as you follow the ball. But I do think that they're much like every position on our team. They do a lot of things well, but we're looking for more consistency. We've got to do the simple things well, right? There's, a dozen plays in that game where Florida beats Florida, if that makes sense. And we've always taken great pride in being a team that doesn't give the opponent anything, right? You're going to have to earn every inch that you get when you play our team. So we're still not there, right? We're still learning our systems. We're still learning how to adjust to playing different systems. I think there's a lot of repetition and growth and that needs to take place there to get to be the type of football team that we want to be.
Last two questions, guys. We'll go to Nick and Jacob.
Coach, you talked about beating yourself. It seems like kickoff returns that when guys are bringing it out, you're not getting it to the 25,
Yeah.
and then there's some blocking the back, some penalties that are setting you back even further. Do you adjust?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question. And I think you kind of saw that within the game, but you know, those are frustrating, right? Because in my opinion, those are undisciplined penalties, right? Some of those in particular, right? Those are decision-making, right, where you're doing something that you know is absolutely not in the best interest of the team. And then I do think from a strategy perspective, we need to make better decisions relative to when we bring the ball out and when we don't, right? So I think we're learning there, and there's no question we need to adjust our strategy there. The penalties are what I really struggle with, because you know when you're returning the ball, whether it's the punt return unit or the kickoff return unit, number one is secure the football. Okay, get the ball back to the offense. Number two is don't get a penalty. Right, that's the top two things on the list. Okay, and hey, we're going to work extremely hard to try to create game-changing plays. Right, win one-on-one matchups. You know, have an electric player that can create. You know, and try to position the team to make a game-changing play. But we're not doing any of those things very well right now, if that makes sense. So it's a part of our team where we need to improve. And I think it's a very germane question for sure.
One last question. Austin Barber has stood out for 2 games and has performed pretty well. What's your evaluation of his performance and how important has been his ability to kind of step in and provide for you guys, as well as other younger guys stepping up?
You know, I'm proud of Austin. He's a freshman that's never played in a game before, and all of a sudden he's got to run out there and play and do his job for the team. He's one of the guys that I think has really developed a lot since we got here. He's got tools, you know, he's 6'6". He weighs a little bit over 300 pounds. He's got length. I think he's a decent athlete. And I think he's got a bright future. And he hasn't been it's not like we've had a huge drop off. He's still a young player. He still makes mistakes in the game, but he's got tools to develop and grow and become a very consistent, dependable player for us.
Can we ask one more question about the Storm, just, and the
Sure.
preparation this week and so forth, and,
Right.
the value of having this facility, with regards to that also?
You know, I think the big thing here is probably more important is just that we hope that everyone is prepared, is making preparation. You know, I know that we're going to have some wind and significant rain here, but we got a lot of people in our state that are in for a rough ride here. So our thoughts and prayers are with them as they prepare. You know, a lot of, having been a part of these things in the past, it's nothing to play around with. So, you know, we got a game this week and all that, but I think these things are a little bit more important. And certainly we're going to do everything we can do within our organization to help our players, their families, anybody maybe that's at risk. And then certainly what it does for me is it makes you very aware of the thankfulness that we should have for a lot of people that go to work that are in a career where they serve others, and these are very difficult times. So it makes you more thankful for that. So, you know, we need to get ready to go there, and we'll adjust as we see fit.